Okay, so just want to go over some more information regarding Battelle for Kids. Again, it's the consulting company that Cumberland Valley has hired to help our teachers become better teachers regarding 21st century learning. I'm not sure if that's what we really want them to do. And then also to help our kids have a quote unquote more equitable learning environment to have more equal outcomes. And so when we talk to these individuals, they say, well, no, equity is defined as equal opportunity for all students. But when we look at the research, the webinars, the articles that they provide on their websites, along with Battelle for Kids, but also the organizations that they associate with, the National Equity Project, if we look at that, it actually turns out to be they're looking for equal outcomes. And I think we just have to be realistic that there are differences, and our abilities, our intelligence levels, our motivation, and our interests. And so I think it's just kind of unrealistic and actually going to hinder a lot of our students when we're trying to provide equal outcomes. I definitely believe in equal opportunities, but what we need to do is see what they're actually trying to do. Is it actually about education at all? And to realize that there are going to be various skill sets within different individuals. And a lot of it has to do with economic access, right? And so I think that definitely needs to be addressed. And individuals that are underrepresented need to be equally represented. And so we want to come up with a program that's going to do that, but not push an ideology that is going to hurt more than it helps. And so I have a few emails going back and forth with the president and CEO of Battelle for Kids. And just to give you a little insight, Karen, who is the CEO, wrote, I believe this is approximately the fourth request you have made on information from us. I would appreciate understanding your interest in our organization and the purpose in seeking this, and other information you have previously requested. So I'm glad it only took the fourth time for her or anybody to get back to me. So I guess just knowing going ahead, if you want to contact them, make sure you put in 4 requests, because the fourth one seems to be the magic number where you get their attention. And so then I asked her, I told her, I responded that I was a parent in the school district that was using their company, and that I had watched some of their podcasts and webinars from Battelle for Kids as well as the National Equity Project. And I wanted to know what their relationship was with the National Equity Project. And I just want to know who supports them and the contracts they have. So what are they doing? What does that relationship look like to be a partner with the National Equity Project? Was the last email that I had asked them, but I also asked who their donors were, and then some information about their programming, which they're really hard to come by. I know there's proprietary information, but I also think there needs to be a lot more transparency, because it's our taxpayer money that's paying for this program. So she did write back. So I appreciate that we're having this correspondence. And she said that they've been proudly supporting education innovation for 20 years. They've partnered with the National Equity Project for some time, and educational organizations have long been responsible for advancing educational equity, which we define as meeting the needs of all students so they are well equipped to thrive in today's complex and rapidly changing world. Then also said that she reached out to Dr. Christopher. So I didn't tell her I was Cumberland Valley. So she did her due diligence and her research, and she found out where I was from. And so she was able to contact Dr. Christopher, and so that he could have all the information for our community that they need. So I guess how to approach me. I don't know if she knows that her and Dr. Christopher and I have had several conversations. He kind of knows where I stand on this, but we need answers. We need direct answers. If they have a product to sell, then we should be able to get that information of what they're selling to the teachers that are teaching our kids and to our kids directly. So we went through that, and so then, just to kind of go through here, she said that just like with any partner, we ask them to provide specific services and don't utilize all that they may offer to others. In addition, they are a strategic partner, but with that being said, they play a relatively minor role in our work. We have used them to help us learn more about equity. From that input, we incorporate what we believe is value added to our work. She said, my assertions are incorrect, generalizations, and most definitely an overreach. So I was very thankful that she did respond, because then I did write back, thank you for clarifying, as there's definitely some questions that I have, and I do like specifics. So I went through, and basically I just said you can't have it both ways. If you are partnered with the National Equity Project, which is well known and very well funded, then you can't say, we just use them for a couple things, but we're not really that involved and we don't necessarily agree with everything they have to say. Now, she didn't come out and say that, right? So that's what I want to know. Do you agree? But really, the point is that if you're partnering with somebody, you're doing it because you're aligned. And so I asked her if, and in another email I wrote, I'm guessing that you're aligned with them. And then I said, Dr. Christopher must be also aligned with their ideology, because otherwise we wouldn't be using them. And that's where she said my generalizations were too much. So she was saying, well, we're not going to say we align with them, but we just use them for some smaller things, some minor things for strategic planning. But they get their information about equity from them. Well, if you go on the National Equity Project and see what they have to say about equity, it is not moderate at all. And again, you can have your opinion on any of this, right? Wherever you stand. And we might be different from that. But what I'm saying is, they're selling an ideology under the guise of bringing in helpful information because our kids have a deficit. But they don't really want to address the deficit, because that could be harmful to our kids if they actually know that they have a deficit. And these are the people that want to promote critical thinking. So they want to teach our teachers to teach critical thinking, and they want to do projects so that our kids learn critical thinking. But we actually can't tell them that the last 2 years have been a train wreck. So we just have to pretend like it's not that bad because they feel that would harm them more. So that right there, I have a real problem with. Because how do we deal with moving forward? We deal with the truth. The truth is that the last 2 years have really been a train wreck for a lot of schools. And I think about Cumberland Valley, and I think just from what I've seen from that, now at various levels, right? Some kids did really great at home. Some kids realized they should be at home. But some kids at home didn't get nearly what they need. And then if we think about other places that do have a lot more issues and didn't have the support at home or didn't have the internet access, it really was a train wreck. So if I just think that the learning loss that happened at Cumberland Valley, and then we look at inner city schools or more, it doesn't matter, suburban or rural, there's issues because of dynamics at home as well as dynamics, economic dynamics, because it doesn't matter where you live, there's still a vast array of economic differences within families. And I just looked at Cumberland Valley to look at the economic differences within the families of that. It's pretty large. And so I'm looking forward to hearing back, because I asked her stance on very specific things that I'm concerned about. And I don't know if she will get back. Hopefully we can continue to communicate. And I wrote, we may not agree on everything, but I think the best way forward to understanding each other is an honest, direct conversation. We both deserve that. So please answer my questions above. So we'll see. I'm also going to ask Dr. Christopher, since this is a program and a company that's coming into our school, he needs to address these questions, but I'm going to wait to listen to see what the president and CEO of the company has to say for that. But I did want to go over just one of her things, because it's not only the associations with National Equity Project or some other ones that I'll get into on some other videos, but also just actually from Karen herself. And so her thoughts on this, and it may be because she read some stuff from the National Equity Project that she agreed with, and she brought it in because that's what she said. They're taking their information from the National Equity Project and using it as value added to their information. Okay, so she did an article on the Learning Hub, a blog, Reframing Learning Loss. And so this is what I was talking about dealing with reality. We can't even deal with reality because that would be too harmful. Like, we've really lost it. We've lost common sense if we can't accept that there's been learning loss and then figure out a plan from there. But this is actually from Karen, and public education has been hard hit by the effects of COVID. Disruptions in learning experience over the past year has exacerbated learning gaps, learning loss for many students. This is a critically important challenge we must overcome. It will require intentional, measured response. Okay, now here's the glitch. This is a problem, because I agree with that. The research on this issue is quite clear. Now, I'm going to ask exactly what research they're using to show this is quite clear. There's a lot of Marxists, college professors that are doing research and trying to sell this concept, but I want to see actually what she's using. So I don't want to generalize. I don't want to say what research she's using, but I want to see exactly what is she specifically using. Okay, so she said that it's quite clear the traditional responses to learning loss are largely ineffectual. Using standardized tests for diagnostic information doesn't work. Then what do we use? I'm not saying we should teach to test. No, we should learn to be able to test so we have objective measures of what we're learning. But if we don't take these kids in that have had this learning loss over the past 2 years and do some type of diagnostic test and see where they're at, what level are they at, so then we can say, okay, this is where you're at and we need to move forward. I don't know how we do that. So that's a very big question of how we're addressing. We just move on from where they're supposed to be. Well, there's going to be huge gaps that way. So that doesn't make any sense from an intellectual standpoint. Okay, so we don't want to use standardized tests for diagnostic information. Or we don't want to remediate the prior school year's academic content only to intensify gaps in learning. So we wouldn't want to go back to what they should have learned, because some kids might get it a little bit faster than others. Okay? Some kids are going to get it faster than others anyway. But wouldn't it be helpful to know where those kids that didn't get it are so we can help them? Because if we don't help them where we are, how is that not going to increase the inequality? It just doesn't make any sense. They should be in school to learn academic content. And so the only way to know where to start from and where to get back to is to have some type of assessment that we can use as a standard. Okay, so they're saying if we do that, it's going to intensify the gaps in learning. Further, simply extending learning time with low-level tasks does not work, academically or emotionally. So here's a quote from Berger 2021, and we'll get into that on another video. But just to give this is one of the things that Karen obviously believes. If districts focus too much on remediating learning loss, holding kids back a grade level, categorizing students according to their deficits, and centering lesson plans on catch-up work, the students that have experienced the most trauma and disconnection during the pandemic may be assigned to the lowest level and most stigmatized groups. They will be, how about we don't put it that way? How about we just say, we're going to help you and put you in the appropriate group so that when you come out of school, you're going to have the knowledge base that you need. Yes, we need all these other skills. We need to be able to communicate, to collaborate, to critical think. But how about starting them off and just say, we're not putting them in a group. Stop putting people in groups. Say, this is where you are, and we're going to help you progress. That's it. This is where you are. We're going to help you progress. The administrators and the teachers can dictate that culture and how they present that and how they develop that in our schools. So the only one putting people in groups that I see in all the research that I've done are people that are trying to tell us the problem with whiteness is that we put people in groups. So I'm very confused about all this. I'm trying to figure it out. But what I do know is that I can critically think and I can realize that this doesn't make any sense. If my kid has a learning loss, I want to determine what that learning loss is and then say, okay, here's our starting point, and now I'm going to help you. Why would we not want to do that? And so if they're not doing that, what are they doing? What are they doing for the failed 2 years that have happened? So I think it's just important because from the rest of this, and I'll post this stuff to understand a little bit more, and I don't want to make these videos too long. I really just want people to think. I want people to go on Battelle for Kids. I want them to research. I want them to listen to their podcasts, their webinars, their teaching videos, look up the articles, look up the people that they put on their quotes, and then research them, because if they feel like they're important enough to quote them, then they must align with them. And so what Karen's trying to tell me, or encourage me to think, is that the people that she quotes, the associations that she has with different organizations, doesn't really mean a whole lot. It's just something that's there, but they have their own thing going. But if you look across the board, the verbiage is all the same. The ideas are all the same. It's just a matter of the words that they choose to communicate. And so they realize that on National Equity Project's site, they can use some stronger words and not care who they're going to offend. But bringing this into a school system, into a community, they kind of have to tamper down that tone. And they're actually told that on some of the webinars and podcasts that I listen to. Understand that if you're in a more conservative area, the way you present it might have to be a little bit different. And why is that? Because they don't want to show what they're actually trying to bring in. So please do your own research, but this is just one of many videos coming out to help us understand what's happening in our community and what's happening at the Cumberland Valley School District.